The parking garage beneath the glass tower in downtown Chicago was almost empty, the kind of quiet that only existed after midnight. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Daniel Carter pushed his janitor's cart between concrete pillars, the smell of oil and cold cement filling the air. He was tired in the way only single parents understood, the kind that settled into the bones. His shift ended at 2 a.m., and after that he would drive home to a small apartment where his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, slept, trusting that her father would always come back. Daniel had learned to live quietly. He kept his head down, worked hard, and spoke only when necessary. Most people in the building barely noticed him. To them, he was just another janitor in a blue uniform, a man who emptied trash and wiped down elevators. That anonymity was exactly what he wanted. Years ago, he had been someone else entirely, and burying that past had taken everything he had. As Daniel rounded a corner near the executive parking section, a sound cut through the stillness. It wasn't loud at first, just a sharp intake of breath, followed by a muffled scream. Daniel froze, his hand tightening around the mop handle. His instincts reacted before his mind did. He had promised himself never to listen to those instincts again, never to let that part of him surface. But the scream came again, clearer this time, filled with panic. He left the cart behind and moved toward the sound, his footsteps silent against the concrete. Ahead, near a black luxury sedan, 3 figures surrounded a woman. She was dressed in a tailored coat, her heels useless as one man pinned her against the car while another raised something metallic that caught the light. Daniel didn't need to think to know what it was. Professional attackers moved with a certain precision, and these men had it. For a single second, Daniel hesitated. He thought of Lily's face in the morning, of her asking if he'd be at her school play next week. He thought of the promise he made to himself after everything fell apart: stay invisible, stay alive. Then the woman screamed again, and the choice was no longer a choice at all. Daniel stepped out of the shadows and spoke, his voice calm but commanding. "Let her go." The men turned, surprised, clearly annoyed by the interruption. One of them laughed, seeing only a janitor with a tired face and worn shoes. That was their mistake. When the first attacker lunged, Daniel moved faster than any of them expected. Years of training he tried to forget snapped back into place, his body remembering what his mind wanted to deny. In less than 30 seconds, the garage was silent again. 2 men lay unconscious on the ground, and the third staggered back, clutching his arm before fleeing into the darkness. Daniel stood still, breathing hard, the adrenaline flooding his system. The woman stared at him in shock, her back against the car, eyes wide. She looked powerful, even shaken, the kind of person used to being in control. "Are you hurt?" Daniel asked, already scanning the garage for more threats. She shook her head slowly. "No, I don't think so." Her voice trembled despite her effort to sound strong. "Who are you?" Daniel didn't answer. He picked up a dropped phone, wiped it clean of fingerprints with his sleeve, and pressed it into her hand. "Call the police," he said. "Tell them what happened." She reached out as if to stop him. "Wait, you saved my life. At least tell me your name." Daniel shook his head. "You'll be safer if you don't know it." Before she could argue, he turned and walked away, disappearing between the concrete pillars, his heart pounding louder with every step. By the time sirens echoed into the garage, Daniel was already back at his cart, forcing himself to breathe normally. The next morning, the story was everywhere. News channels talked about a failed assassination attempt on Evelyn Ross, the CEO of one of the largest tech firms in the country. Security footage showed blurred images of a man in a janitor's uniform intervening before the cameras cut out. Commentators called him a mystery hero. Evelyn, standing at a podium, said she owed her life to a stranger who asked for nothing. Daniel watched the broadcast from his small kitchen while Lily ate cereal across from him. She looked up and smiled. "Daddy, that man is a hero," she said. Daniel smiled back, swallowing hard. "Yes," he replied softly. "He is." Lily had no idea that the man on the screen moved like her father, or that the past Daniel buried was now knocking quietly at his door. Over the following days, Daniel noticed changes. Unfamiliar cars lingered near his apartment. Men in suits appeared in the building, asking management questions. He kept his routine steady, walking Lily to school, going to work, keeping his head down. But he knew Evelyn Ross wouldn't stop looking. People like her didn't accept unanswered questions, especially when their lives were involved. One evening, as Daniel locked up a supply closet, Evelyn stood waiting near the elevator. She looked different without the fear, composed and sharp-eyed. "You're very good at disappearing," she said. Daniel sighed, knowing the moment had come. "I didn't want recognition," he replied. "I just did what anyone should." She shook her head. "No, you did what very few could." They talked quietly in the empty hallway. Evelyn told him the attackers were part of a larger threat connected to her company. She had resources, influence, and a deep sense of debt. She offered him money, security, a new life. Daniel listened patiently, then declined. "I already have a life," he said. "My daughter needs a father, not a ghost chased by powerful enemies." Evelyn studied him, seeing the weight he carried. "You have a past," she said gently. Daniel nodded. "And I intend to keep it buried." After a long silence, she smiled, not as a CEO, but as a grateful human being. "Then let me help in a way you'll accept." Weeks later, Daniel was quietly promoted to facilities supervisor, better hours, better pay, no questions asked. Life slowly returned to normal. Lily's school play came and went, with Daniel in the front row, clapping louder than anyone. The shadows of the parking garage faded into memory, though Daniel knew they would always be part of him. Sometimes, late at night, he thought about how close he came to losing everything. He also thought about the choice he made in seconds, the one that changed everything. Daniel Carter remained a quiet man in a blue uniform, pushing a cart through hallways most people ignored. But he slept easier knowing that when it mattered, he hadn't turned away. He had shown his daughter, without her ever knowing, what real strength looked like. And in a city full of noise and ambition, a single dad janitor proved that heroes didn't need titles, only the courage to act when it counted most.